realize that everybody has their own path, everybody has their own trajectory, and if you're constantly looking who's behind you, they're gonna overpass you. You're looking at what they're doing yesterday, they're already planning tomorrow. If your vision is big enough, you'll naturally find that that's what you're concentrating on. You don't concentrate on what other people are doing. You're like, this is what my ideal life looks like, this is my trajectory for it, this is my path, that's what I'm gonna do. Ask yourself, what does the ideal life look like for you in 5 years from now? And start writing it down. So then this way, like, reinforces in your brain that you live this way. Now you start making decisions and start making moves as if you actually are that person. And that's going to get you to that much quicker. If you can engrave in your brain what your vision is and constantly try to visualize what that vision looks like. And every night before you go to bed, you picture it in detail. What does it feel like? What do I feel like? Who's around me? What does it smell like? Use to trigger all your 5 senses. And the more you start living, like, that's actually happening. Is anytime you're in a pickle or any sort of like situation where you need to make any sort of decision, ask yourself, what is the ideal version of myself? What would the ideal version of myself do in this situation? That's what gets me excited. That's what gets me going. You know, I have so much passion and so much like energy into it. And I'm always like, how far can I push it? How far can I push it to prove to myself, you know, like, yeah, see my dreams through.
All right, welcome back to Two Fries Podcast, where we document the rise, stardom, Winnipeg's talent and personalities, aka the #1 podcast in Winnipeg. Like, comment, subscribe. Let's go. Blah, blah, blah.
Let's bring on our guest for today. He's a general manager at Prolex Media, who's worked with companies such as Audi, Mercedes-Benz, and much more. He's a content creator and a self-improvement enthusiast. Please welcome Alex Streltsov.
Welcome, my man.
Guys.
I see you. I told you this before, but I see you everywhere, and I think that's your job. Correct?
That is my job. I guess I'm doing something right. That's
so.
Awesome.
I mean, scrolling through your stuff,
right.
It's all about like productivity. We see so much. I think the main question I have for you is, where did that start and why? Why focus yourself on building yourself up?
Right. Where it started. So when I was 18. Backstory. I'm from Ukraine, European parents, very strict. I'm sure you guys can relate. Immigrant parents, like, go to school or you pick up a shovel. Like, there's no in between, right? So, and dig trenches is what I mean. So I went to university like everybody else, and you know, being immigrant parents, they always compare you to their friends' kids.
Yeah,
all that. So I went to just make them happy. Went into engineering just because my dad's an engineer, my grandpa was an engineer. So did that whole thing, and then basically I hated it. I love learning, but I hate learning what I don't want to learn. And, you know, the school system, especially like U1, I guess. Yeah. Like why do I need quantum physics? And like, you know what I mean? Like, unless I really want to go into like building bridges or whatever, which is just not what I wanted. So basically I told my parents that I want to take a leap year after the first year. And then to myself, I promised that I'm going to do enough in the first year to be able to prove to them at the end of the year that I don't have to re-sign up for uni the next year. That was the first spike. And then I just dove heavy into self-development, like Grant Cardone, Simon Sinek, like all the sales and productivity and self-development gurus, like every single day in the car, at home. That's all I did. And then at the same time, I also started Prolex. And then now I started applying everything to Prolex Media and basically started developing that. So that was like the first spike. And then eventually when you start doing it, like I was really passionate about photos and videos and all that. And then eventually I became really like obsessed about growing my business and like outdoing myself. And I'm like, how far can I push it this year? Yeah. And then that's kind of what keeps driving it. It's always like, legitimately, I can say hand to heart is that it's always me against me. I don't ever I don't think there's competition, honestly. So I guess that's a really long way to answer your question, to say like, it's always just like me pushing myself to do better than I did last year in every aspect. And then it's just like, it's basically like, you know, there's skill stacking. So basically, and then I keep trying to stack the different things that I can do to like improve myself. So this year the last 2 years has been big on like health as well. Healthy living, healthy eating. And then because that has a lot to do with your productivity too, like your gut health, your mind health, all of it. So yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. Cause a lot of people don't realize, like, they think, especially in like the content creation world, they're all about like, oh, that person's doing this, I'm going to do the same thing or try to beat them. And it's not like a self-improvement journey. So where did that start? Like, why so like keen on social media and growing your own brand?
Right. You know what? It started from, like, I never really wanted to do it for my personal brand. I was just like, I want to grow Prolex as much as I can. And then eventually, like I have probably 12 people that own businesses that come to me at least once a month, and like we'll do like a 30-minute to an hour session where I just like try to coach them through their issues or problems they're having. And then I was like, well, this is interesting. Like people actually care for what I have to say. And then when they apply what I kind of suggest, it works and they like solve the problem that they're having. Yeah. And I was like, well, if these people have these issues, why don't I try to share with the world and just bring some value to the world? That's kind of the first part of it. The second part is a little selfish, of course, of like, you know, if you grow a personal brand, opportunities come and whatever. And nowadays, because social media kind of made everything super perfect and everybody's super polished, and it's just a highlight reel on social media now for everybody, that now it's shifting. The trend is shifting, and it has been for like the last year or so, where everybody loves like authenticity, and because of authenticity, people like to follow people more than like to follow brands. Right. And now the people behind the brands is what actually grows the brands the most. And like, I mean, the most known one of all is Gary Vaynerchuk, of course. Like most people don't even know he owns VaynerMedia, or that he invests in like sports teams and all these other things that he's doing. So the second piece is a little bit selfish, but it's more so like my primary kind of focus is not how I can grow the fastest, is how I can bring the most value, because naturally by bringing the most value to the world, you grow online and on social media. And yeah.
I mean, we look through your Instagram and you can see a lot of reels, a lot of like engagement. You're at the top of your game, and you're only going to get bigger, of course. But this didn't always start there. This started however many years ago. Walk us through when this really started and how you really got, like, most people probably don't even know what Prolex Media is, you know?
Right.
Explain the intuition of coming to
So Prolex or my personal brand?
Let's start with personal brand.
Actually,
or which one came first?
Prolex.
So Prolex.
Yeah. So, oh man, this goes way back. You're really going way back. Okay. So, grew up a car guy, huge car guy, third word ever apparently to my mom was Fiat. Terrible choice, but I mean, I didn't, whatever. So I could name any car on the street when I was like 5 years old. Wow. So I was like, I feel like most of my vocabulary when I was 5 was car names and models and whatever. That was my thing. Anyway, grew up with cars like crazy. So born in Ukraine, lived in Israel for like 9 years, and then came here. When I came here, I was kind of, like, I didn't care to go to my friends' places to play like video games or whatever. Like my thing was cars, and it was like cars, car shows, this, whatever. And then what I did was, one of my first sources of income is I'd bus to different luxury dealerships and take videos on like a really crappy, like video camera, and I'd post it on YouTube, and I would monetize it through my brother's account because I wasn't 18. And then basically just, it wasn't much, but whatever, made a little bit of money. And then through that, one of the places I'd go to was Mercedes-Benz Winnipeg. And then, so I'd go there all the time and then do videos for them. And then it came to the point where these dealerships would email me being like, hey, we have this like special car coming in. Why don't you come and do a video? And I was like, sick, content for me. They can use it to sell it. I don't care, whatever. And then one day Benz called me up and they're like, we have this like really special car. Are you guys car guys much?
Yeah, a bit, yeah.
Yeah, so SLS AMG Final Edition. So it was, nice. I don't know, there's like 35 in the world or 70 in the world. I don't remember the number exactly, but there's one traveling across Canada, and what they do is they tour across Canada from like eastern to western or whatever. Sure. And it was coming through Winnipeg for a week. I did a video for him, and it actually sold the car to somebody. And then literally like so I used to go to U of W Collegiate for like the last 3 years of high school, and I'm on my bus home to St. Vital. So like a stretch, and I'm like almost home, and then I get a call from the guy that used to always like email me and stuff, and he's like, "Hey Alex," and keep in mind I'm like 15 at this point, and he's like, "Hey man, can you come in for an interview right now?" And I'm like, dressed how it would be for school, like in a hoodie or whatever, on my way home on this bus, and then like 50 minutes away, literally from the dealership's like, "Yeah, I'll be there in an hour." So anyway, I come down, and then. All it was the manager came up to me. He's like, "Hey, you're Alex. I've seen you around or whatever." He's like, "Yeah." And then he's like, "How would you like to work here?" Wow. And then I was like, I almost offered to work for free. I swear to God, it was like, I remember this because I was like, I get to combine photos and videos, which I love, and cars. I was like, what the hell is this? So got hired by them. And then basically after the first, so I started helping them with all their inventory photos and videos, ran their social, ran their YouTube, like optimized their website, worked with like, basically like the internet. They had like internet managers at the time, that would be assigned to the dealership. So I work with them, optimize their Kijiji, optimize their Auto Trader, did like a bunch of, constantly gave like different feedback, research what the best dealerships in North America do. And in the first year, we were able to quadruple all our numbers. So views, sales, like leads, everything. Yeah. And then work with them for about 3.5 years. And then at 3.5 year mark was when the mark came for like when I decided that I didn't want to go back to school. And at that point I was like, well, if I could do this for them, I could do this for other people. So I actually started, I don't know if I should be saying this on air, but I actually started reaching out to the clients of Mercedes that I would meet through whatever, like in the dealership. Yeah, right. And they obviously all like either owned businesses or were lawyers that worked at a law firm or whatever. And my first like 20 or 30 clients were all Mercedes customers. Yeah. And then, from there, I basically hired my first editor. So I would shoot, he would edit. I would just like, at the end of the day, drop off the footage. And then I got big into real estate videos. So that was my first like big spike of business. So basically what I did was I have my brother's a realtor. So he gave me a list of all the realtors in the city. And then I basically just like bombarded everybody. Wow. And and then I would shoot like 6 to 10 houses a day. And keep in mind, they take about an hour each. So, and then I would go at like end of the evening. And then one of my first employees was Quan Long. I don't know if you guys know. He's a big cinematographer in the city. Sure. I'd drop off the footage and he'd stay up till like 3 a.m. editing all these houses and like send them back to me and then send it to the realtors at like 6 a.m. when I wake up. That's the first thing I do. And then I hit the gym and then like 7:30 I'd be out and doing houses all day. And then did that for about 1.5 years, like houses and then some dealership work. Like we signed a couple of dealerships at the time, whatever. And I was doing like everything, like managing sales, everything. And then after about 1.5 years, got our first office. That was on Osborne. It was honestly like crap, but whatever. It was like $600 a month, but I mean, like it was all I could afford at the time. Right. And then it was small and whatever. And then we had like about a year later, we had a break-in where all of our gear got stolen right in the office. Like somebody busted through the wall and then took all of our gear. It was like 60, 70 grand of gear. That's crazy. So at the time, considering like I'm fully bootstrapped. Yeah. You know, no rich parents, nothing. It was like devastating. It was insured, but the insurance only covers like 50% because of depreciation or whatever. Anyway, long story short, that was my second spike of like really going heavy. So like at the same time, I had all the gear stolen. My main employee quit on me 2 weeks later. And I mean, no shade, whatever. Like he's on to better things and we're still buddies or whatever. And then like 2 months later, somebody really close to me got like really severe cancer. And then at the same time, and then like had to live through that. And I was like, you know, and that really lit like a fire under
your belly.
I don't know what the standard is here for curse words. But so lit a fire under me, and then I basically was like, how do I develop myself enough where none of this like would matter, where my mentally, like financially, physically, all across the board. And then I was like, instead of being like down, I was like, I use it as motivation. I was like, what do I need to change in my life that like, if this stuff happens, I take emotion out of the situation, think logically, and like make the best of it. And then from there, I took an office that was twice the price, and it was right. We moved in 2020, right after COVID started, and I was like, not gonna lie, like I was like, I don't know, and I was like, you know what? Screw it, like commit and figure it out later. And then like I need to get enough business to not care. And then so that one was like $1,200 a month, which was not crazy money, but like, you know, when during COVID or whatever, it was exactly. And then like literally within it's a 3-year lease, and within 5 months of that lease, I reached back out to my agent and I was like, we need more space. So then we decided to lease the space next door, which we actually looked at originally, which was like 800 square feet. The space we're in is like 600 square feet. That one was too expensive for me at the time. And then we've combined both, and we're moved in January, turned down the wall, did a full reno, and now we're in there since January. So yeah. And then we're now at 14 staff, and trying to grow as fast as we can.
That's a crazy journey, man.
Yeah. It's been a journey.
Was there ever a moment you were like, man, this is not going to happen? Like, I can't do this.
No. I do not. I'm telling you, man, I don't have a plan B. And I think that's what it takes, is that you are so committed to making it work, whatever it takes. But of course, you can't be stupid about it. Like
Right.
some people are like, if you're running a newspaper company, like, you might need to pivot, but
especially in 2020.
no, that's what I mean, right? Like, if it's one of your avenues, then yeah. But I mean, if that's your main source of income, then maybe you need to pivot. But if you genuinely see the value, you're providing value to the people, you keep getting proof that it brings value to the people you work with, then there's no plan B. And then it's just like, how can I make sure this works? And then how can I learn then again, back to the skill stack. How can I learn from every single situation to make sure that this either doesn't happen again or I'm ready for it if it does and it's not a problem. It's just like, okay, step 1, 2, 3. And that comes down to processes as well. So very process driven, very analytical. And then basically if main thing that I tell all my staff, it's okay to screw up. I'm not going to give you, I don't think I've ever yelled at any of my staff or raised my voice or anything. It's like, if any screw ups happen, you just figure out how to fix it. Write me out a process or what do we need to add to an existing process we already have to make sure this doesn't happen again. And this goes back to, did I ever think it's not going to work?
Yeah.
No, it's because it's always like, how can we make sure that it does work and how can I absolutely dominate? So
we need to break down that story. I know you went over that way too quick, my friend.
Which one?
All of it. Okay, so you're 15 years old.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you just decide to show up at a dealership and start filming cars. And most 15-year-olds don't do that, my friend.
Yeah. Well,
what was the mindset? Why?
I think initially it's from my older brother.
Okay.
He's 12 years older, and he was kind of trying to teach me all the things that he didn't do or the mistakes he made.
Sure.
So since I was very young, it was always like, hey, you got to do better. You got to do better. And it wasn't like that you're doing poorly. He always made sure to tell me that. It's not that you're doing poorly right now. It's like, keep outdoing yourself. Keep doing better than what you did yesterday. Yeah. So, and then the other thing is that he would always kind of like sneakily give me gifts that aligned with what I love doing, for every birthday. So he got me my first camera. He got me my second camera. He like all of that. So, I think it's because I was so passionate about cars, and I think that's what it comes down. And then, not I think, it is certainly what it comes down to, and that's what I preach a lot on my personal brand now, is passion. I was very passionate about cars, like absolute geek and nerd about cars, like chassis numbers, engine codes, all of it. And it came down to that, and I really wanted to follow my passion. It was fun. Yeah. And then I would go and take these videos or whatever, and then I started doing these videos at dealerships, and all of a sudden people like were excited to have me come down. So I was like, okay, nice little boost. Right. And then I started posting on YouTube, started making money, and it's like, and it's your like reassurance, I guess, right? Like proof of concept.
Right.
Like, okay, this could work. This could work. So yeah. And then and then I just kind of ran with it. I also wasn't like big into, like, I never cared to fit in school. Yeah, like I was just kind of me. Like, when everybody was rocking like Crooks and Castles and all that, I was wearing polo shirts. You know what I mean? And that's just because I was like, that was me.
Yeah.
So I would never like go after school for a smoke, or when everybody started getting into weed or whatever, I was like, nah.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm gonna go make some money. And then I went to a private school, and yeah, like people were like, how in high school people like kind of poke fun at you, and you're like, come on, man, come for a smoke or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, I got, and then loser.
Who's this guy?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it's like, I know they didn't mean it, but I didn't give. And I'm making my bank, right? And then like, guess who had their own first car in in high school, and everybody drove in their parents' vans, and I bought my first like the dream car from my first car, which is WRX, like an older one, but like it was a WRX. I was like,
it's pretty dope.
Yeah. So like, and not in a boasting way. I'm just saying that it's like, I think if you and I don't mean it in like a flexy or like, look at me. It was more so, I'm just trying to say that for like anybody that's afraid to stand out or whatever, don't freaking worry about it. Like the people that make fun of you, they're probably just wish they were
doing the same thing.
Yeah, they're doing the same thing. And then guess the funny thing is, it's full circle. Like I've literally had people that I went to high school with that made fun of me apply to work for me. And I was like,
feels good though.
Yeah.
Feel good.
What does that feel like?
Dude, like I don't want to come off like pretentious.
Nobody does, but it internally,
like, yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Or like, like when I used to go, have you guys ever heard of Top Tier Imports?
Yeah.
So like I was one of like the first, 30, 40 members when it first started. So I used to go to all the car meets and take the photos and do the videos. And then I got big in that scene, and I'd have like, didn't have a car back then. So I'd literally have like different people pick me up from my mom's house to take me to these meets or whatever. And it's funny because there was like a couple of bullies, like a couple of older guys would be like, oh, like who's this kid or whatever. Or like when they'd go to like, a restaurant. They couldn't go in the lounge because of me. And then they'd always make, and then he freaking applied to work for as a web dev for me. And I was like, you're literally 10 years older than me, dude. And you're applying to work for me. So like, and again, I just want to make it clear. It's not in a boasting way. It's just that, just be passionate, see your dreams through. There's no plan B. Like literally just you against you, and just crush it as much as you can. So
yeah, and I think that's really important too, right? Like you seem very calculated about everything, and having like that mindset at such a young age is like admirable, right? It's amazing. Like not a lot of kids have that nowadays. They're all about trying to fit in and calculating everything, analytics, right? So how important is that for your business and your personal brand as well?
I would say that's the only way you know if you're doing well. That's the only way you know if it's you against you. That's the only way you know how well you're doing. Numbers don't lie. You know, you can kind of have a hunch or a sense, or you can, you know, hear from here and there, or get a couple of Google reviews that you're doing well. But like, it's really down to the numbers. Right. So it came from somewhere. I don't know, probably some book I read or some video I watched or whatever. But like now we literally track like, oh man, it's honestly overwhelming. Like we have tracking for everything. Like even down to the referral, we track which client referred how many clients per month to then see, you know, what can we do to improve it, to ensure that this client refers more, or like if they haven't referred somebody in a while, maybe they're not so happy with us or whatever. So we have to like uncover that. So it literally comes down to the nitty gritty. But yeah, I would say it started from like just really comparing ourselves, and then it's also pushes you to do better, because if you're like, okay, well, I did 50 of X last month. Well, obviously I want to do better this month, but if you don't track it, you don't know. So you're like, okay, well, I'm kind of running with it, you know, it's good. Right. So if you know what your benchmark is and you constantly try to push yourself over and over, then that's it's motivating as well.
Does that sometimes like consume you? Because like sometimes we create like a piece of content, we think it's the best thing in the world. Yo, this is getting 1 million views. We put it out 4 views.
Yeah.
Like, and it's like, yo, I felt so good about this.
Right.
But this didn't hit.
Take emotion out of the situation, man. You feel you're thinking about it emotionally.
Sure.
And also perhaps a little bit like about what is your benefit out of it.
Yeah.
So and then again, no shade by any means, but I would say, think of it more like I'm trying to drive value as much as I can to the people. And if people didn't respond and didn't see the value, well, clearly, maybe I'm thinking a little different than the people. Maybe we're not putting out the type of content, or this is not the type of content that fits in with what people want to see. Maybe I didn't post it at the right time, or maybe whatever. Sometimes it literally comes down to, you can delete it, repost it the next day, and it'll pop off. Yeah. So like, it could also be fluke. But yeah, I would say take emotion out of the situation and just like focus on the big picture.
Yeah.
You know, like we had like endless complaints from clients here and there, and not endless, but like a good amount. And a lot of the time it's like just the client not understanding, or maybe it's that they had a different different expectation. Right. So like, and then I take any situation. So for example, like managing expectations with clients, right? Like going back to, you know, what, you know, like screw ups or not thinking about it emotionally. So at first I used to think very emotionally, but every time that a client would like say something,
right,
be like, cause it's my baby. Right?
Yeah. You worked on it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and then I realized, okay, well, it's because the expectation wasn't managed well. And then I'm like, okay, what can I do to manage expectations? So then we started doing something called like creative briefs in our industry, which we never did because I never learned about the fact that that's what agencies do. Because I never went to school or worked at an agency before, just kind of winging it, honestly. And and we did this creative brief, and now we send it to every client that we start working with, and now they know exactly what the expectation is. And then if they're not happy with the end result, we're like, okay, well, let's compare the end result to the creative brief and figure out where the disconnect is. So the same thing back to, say, your piece of content that's not resonating with your audience. You look at it and you analyze, and then you do, okay, well, how is it compared to the top content that I've ever posted? Is it similar? Yeah. Does it have the same foundation, the same duration? Did I post at the same time? And then and that's why you use your analytics to your advantage, is you kind of compare the two, and then you're like, okay, well, here's something that stands out. If they're perfect picture perfect copy of each other, of like everything else other than the content itself, then it may literally come down to reposting it. Sure. But yeah, I would say literally think of everything like rationally rather than emotionally. Take emotion out of the situation.
Yeah, that's unique. So growing your business like Prolex Media, you've done it for a while now, right? Yeah. And how do you keep your team motivated? You know, like you mentioned Simon Sinek in the start, and I read his book, Start With Why.
Yeah.
And like, how do you keep pushing your employees to believe in that mission and like, keep wanting to grow every single day, be 1% better?
Right. Good question. So I would say concentrate on what the vision is and remind people of what the vision is. Show them, be transparent, show them what's going down behind the scenes, show them what is happening, and then also grow them personally to help you grow towards the vision. So I very openly talk about our goals. I tell people the progress about the goals. I tell my whole staff about what my next steps are for getting us closer to these goals, and who are we trying to hire? What's the next step? What's the next step here? What's the next step there? We also have like monthly business development meetings where I basically have my whole team in the boardroom and everybody, and I ask like different questions like, what stupid stuff are we doing? What, how can we cater to our clients better? How can I manage my relationship better with all of you and stuff like that? And people write them on sticky notes anonymously, one idea per sticky, and then we put them on the whiteboard or like on our class, whatever. And then we go through them. So to answer your question, like it's transparency and making sure that people know what's going on behind the scenes and that we're growing towards the vision. And then that they're part of the vision, that they contribute to the vision. And I make sure to always let the team know what that specific individual did to help us get to the vision. Or anytime they do something, I'm like, hey, this is awesome. This is going to help us solve this thing. It's going to make us this much closer to the vision. And then also getting the feedback from them. So making sure that they know that their feedback and their ideas are valued. And they are. Like literally 9 out of 10 times that somebody comes to me and says, hey, we should do this. I'm like, okay, well, figure out how we're going to do it. And we're either going to do it now, in 6 months from now, or in a year from now. But we're definitely putting it in if it's a good idea. We're putting it into the queue. Not big on like the whole rah, let's do this, like that. It's not, creatives is a little different. Like if you ran a sales team, then maybe, but like we're working with creatives, they need to see that their work changes the world or does some sort of change out there. So that's what I think, and that's based on my feedback that I'm getting. The other thing is a lot of like my staff will start doing like X, and like I have one staff member that's literally changed 3 careers within 3 years working with me because like he liked this, kind of lost interest. I'm like, well, what's your goal, man? Like, what do you want to do? And then he's like, well, I want to go into this. Okay, cool. And he did it for a while, and he's like, and then he started like dabbling in this other stuff because of like a need we had. I'm like, I need somebody to do this. Like, you seem like the fit. And he started doing it, and he loves it. And then he's like, that's what I want to do. And I'm like, great. And then with that, he grows as an individual. He learns new skills. His salary raises because he keeps like skill stacking and going up, and he's happy. And same with like, like I have, 4 or 5 people in the company that had the same trajectory. So if they see that I care for their personal future, and it's not like it's like selfless, right? Like of course I care for Prolex to succeed, but also the success of the Prolex completely depends on the success of everybody within it. I just provide the vision. Yeah, these guys execute.
Where'd you learn that mindset? Like, how long has this mindset been in you? And
oh man,
where'd you learn all these skills?
I just like try to develop myself every single day. Okay. Like there's not like I can't tell you like a pivotal point. Yeah. Like that's what I mean. It's a skill stack, right? So you constantly, and it's my unique skill stack. You guys have your own unique skill stack, right? So as long as you concentrate constantly learning and improving and knowing that you don't know everything and constantly, and you just basically just try to become that 1% better every day. And if you hit 2%, now you're rolling. Yeah. So I every time I'm driving, I always have like Blinkist playing, which is a app for summarizing non-fictional books. So any of the self-development gurus, they all have books on there. So 15 minutes instead of 8 hours for a book. Yeah. Then like always, like I have like 3 main YouTubers that I watch that it's all about like self-development and stuff. And like I filter out all the ones that talk like a lot of fluff. I like very actionable, just like this is what you do and whatever. Then like I have a life coach as well. So she's like worked with like some of the world's best kind of entrepreneurs worldwide. So she's done schooling like all over the place and whatever. She also happens to be my cousin, so she does it for free. Because their hourly rate is like ridiculous. So that, and then like I try to network as much as I can. And by networking, trying to like meet as many different business owners, managers of like high level firms and stuff. That's like one tier of marketing. So by doing that, you you can ask all the questions you want, and then people are very happy to share. And make sure you go into that like kind of offering any sort of support you can provide, whether it's connecting them with other people or any questions they have. I usually try to come with some nuggets for like their marketing, like for free in exchange for their time, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, like you learn a lot. Like I learn a ton from these people. More like actionable steps, like actionable kind of like, here's a bonus system I use. Why don't you try it with your staff kind of deal, And like it's like, yeah, great. And then the other tier of that is then I try and network with people that do what I do, but like 10 times better. And they're worldwide. And then I'll basically reach out on LinkedIn or Instagram or whatever. And I'll say, hey, fellow agency owner, love what you do. Blah, 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 blah. I have a couple questions if you don't mind. All I need is like 10 minutes of your time. And I've been on like calls with YouTubers with 1.5 million subscribers. I've been on calls with like agency owners that have like 200 employees. And the only reason I'm saying that is just all it takes is to ask. And that's it. And a lot of people are willing to do it. That's all. A lot of people are. And then on the flip side, people that are looking for like mentorship, they're like, a lot of times are scared. It's like, oh, what are they going to think? Or what are they going to say? Or what if they ignore me? Okay, so what? You message 20 people, one responds, you get like $1 million of value, whatever. So yeah, it's just constantly improving. And like, I think now it's become I'm obsessed with becoming better and making my company better.
Do you think momentum has a play in that? Like,
well, big time.
Yeah.
Big time. Yeah. If I was going to like, move back in with my mom, lay on the couch and smoke weed all day, then yeah. And then it would be hard to get started back up, but it's definitely like daily habits.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think you need to be open-minded. You need to have like systems in place of how you retain information and everything and how you apply it. But yeah, it's just a lifestyle, I guess.
And then nowadays you mentioned like social media is like a highlight reel for everyone, right? Mm-hmm. It's so easy to see that, oh, this guy just ran 100 miles or something. Mm-hmm. And this guy just made 100 mil off like crypto coin or something like that, right?
JPEG.
yeah, that JPEG. Exactly.
So like, how do you manage that and be like, okay, this fight is me against me?
Right.
Whereas a lot of people will compare themselves to others across social media and whatnot.
Right. Good question. I think there's a couple avenues to that. Number one is focus. So like, and the reason I say that is because a lot of the times when you're young and eager and want to just like make the money, you always like, you do your thing and then you're like, oh, shiny little other thing. Like somebody's flipping NFTs, why don't I try that? Or like this other thing, like somebody's has a real estate portfolio or doing like house flips or whatever. I think you just need to really dial in on the focus. And I learned that the hard way. And I would say that's, I don't know if that answers your question directly, but so maybe let me manage the focus, I would say. So what are you focused on? Make sure, and it's whatever you're doing. Like, so say like for me, it's the agency and I'm all in on the agency right now. Like I have a couple investments here where they're pretty passive or whatever. I don't like daily trade or whatever. Because I think the worst piece of advice I've ever gotten is don't put all your eggs in one basket. And let me explain. I know it's going to draw some question marks like what, but because I think that you need to make sure that your basket flourishes first before you diversify and put your eggs in other baskets. Because at 19, I bought my first rental property. I did my first investment into the stock market, crypto market, started Prolex and started drop shipping. So I was managing 5 things at the same time. And I half-assed all of them. Yeah. Like totally. Like, I mean, no shame in saying that, right? Now, and then once I completely sold out of my crypto, which, I mean, that's a mistake, but whatever. But it's all good. I mean, like, you can't get emotional about it. Yeah. Out of my out of the stocks that I had, like I invested into Tesla and a couple other ones and sold my real, rental property, cashed out on the drop shipping and actually sold it to another guy that's still running it. And went all in on Prolex, and that's when I started seeing growth. So I think in regards to managing what other people are doing, that aspect is like, don't worry about what other people are doing. If you know what you like, this is what you want to do, then concentrate and go all in. Don't try to diversify. The second piece of it is when you say you run an agency and you compare it to other agency owners. How do you manage that? Is realize that everybody has their own path, everybody has their own trajectory, and if you're constantly looking who's behind you, they're gonna overpass you, or if you're looking, or say if somebody's ahead of you and you're looking at what they're doing, you're looking at what they're doing yesterday. They're already planning tomorrow.
Wow.
And that's two-sided. It's the same way how I don't consider anybody my competition, because if they're or like somebody that's copying me or whatever, or like I'm like, we did that first, but they're like doing something similar. Yeah. Like they're looking at what I did yesterday. I'm already planning tomorrow. So I think it's like I said, it's two-sided on that side. So I don't care what other agencies are doing. I care about what I'm doing because I love what I'm doing. I have my own plan, and that's what I think is going to work. and that's what I'm going to put all my energy into. I'm not going to take any of my mental capacity or my mental energy or any of my emotions to be like, oh, these guys are doing better than me. I was like, I don't care. It's me against me. I like, it's my dream. I'm going to make my dream come true.
Wow. I mean,
I don't know if that answers your question. There's not like a 1, 2, 3 step,
No,
I guess,
of course.
that to manage that expectation. But I guess it comes down to a mindset. If you were to pinpoint to one word, I think it's the mindset.
Right. But like a lot of people do put emotion into their businesses, right?
Right.
Because like I feel like emotion shows passion, right? So when you say like, oh, you shouldn't compare like competition, I think that's a great idea, right? Because you're focused on yourself. But I also think there's a need for it, right? You got to know what your other opponents are doing. That way you can do better, no?
it's also hard to like not, right? Is it difficult? Like when you first started, I'm sure there was people you looked up to, no?
Look up to is different than compare as like competition.
Sure.
I think that those are two different things. So I think competition is when you're like, screw those guys. I want to do better than them, right? Versus like look up, exactly. It's like you want to do better than them because you like almost like have a little bit like a negative energy, right? Versus like looking up to somebody, I think it's positive energy. I think it's like, oh wow, they're doing amazing. I could do that too, like in that way. I guess how not to do it, I don't know. I can't say that I don't look at other agencies in the city or like beyond, but I just kind of like see what they're doing and I'm like, oh cool, like whatever. Yeah, this is what they're doing, but not like they beat us to it or like whatever. Like I want to beat them. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah, because I think like everyone's on their own path, right? Like in some way they're gonna intertwine with yours, but you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, and taking out the emotion out of the situation, I think it's maybe concentrate on the vision. And like big thing is like I like to ask myself, this helps with a lot beyond not comparing yourself, and even like if you ever need motivation or if you ever like kind of down about something, this is what I do is again, to not compare yourself to the competition and concentrate on your own vision. That also this kind of exercise helps with that as well. Ask yourself, what does the ideal life look like for you in 5 years from now? And start writing it down and literally write it down in I statements. So I don't know, whatever. I own $100 million portfolio of real estate. I this, I that. Yeah. And then you write it as if it's present and in I format. So then this way like reinforces in your brain that you live this way. And now you start making decisions and start making moves as if you actually are that person. And that's going to get you to that much quicker. Now back to not comparing yourself to your competition. If your vision is big enough, you'll naturally find that's what you're concentrating on. You don't concentrate on what other people are doing. You're like, this is what my ideal life looks like. This is my trajectory for this is my path. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah. The other thing is also asking yourself what if questions. So what if I made $10 million this year? Or what if I was the #1 podcast in Canada? What would that life look like? Right? And then like write it out. And then that gets you jacked. That gets like, try it. And that gets you absolutely like lit up. And then you're like, you don't care what the other guys are doing because I'm so lit up with how my life looks like when I'm the #1 podcast in Canada or North America or whatever, that I don't care what those guys are doing.
Yeah, of course. You mentioned the vision a couple times. I'm just curious to see, what is your vision? Like,
you know what? That's the one question I think I'm gonna plead the fifth on, because I don't like to talk about what that is. Like I can tell you what the vision is for like Prolex. Sure. That would be I want to have a boutique shop, like boutique feeling shop of like 30 staff or so, not grow past that, and then basically do projects worldwide. And then, where we're based of, I don't know yet. Like could be Winnipeg, like somewhere in Canada probably, just because it's, I think Canada's the best country in the world in regards to like taking everything into consideration. Sure. But yeah, Prolex, I want it to be like international company, and then basically we just hire out subcontractor experts. Okay. The reason I don't want to like to share my personal vision is just because it's way more satisfying when you just do it without talking about it. And I feel you. Yeah, and it's, I don't know, because it changes so quickly, like all the time.
Let me change the question. How often do you think about your vision?
Once a week.
Once a week.
I have so again, my life is quite structured, which is a little bit robotic sometimes, but I mean, like there's no room for error in that case. Sure. But once a week, usually on Friday nights, actually, I'll sit and journal, and I have a lot of questions like that I ask myself, and I have about 5 or 6 different sections of questions. So it's about a 2-hour session each time. Wow. And I basically ask myself, like, what is my vision? and I rewrite it, and then I ask myself, is this still my vision? And I ask myself, like in that section of questions, it's all about goals. So it's usually once a week, like I said, for 2 hours, and then I'll just start writing. I'm like, what is my vision? What is my goals? How am I getting there? And then I compare it to last week's notes, and I'm like, is it still the same? Is it still aligned? Also ask myself, like, what's the fastest way to get to my goals? What are my goals? Review my goals, stuff like that. And then ideally, I try to make time to review the goals every single night before you go to bed, and then try to visualize it as much as you can, because the more you visualize it, the more, because we work, oh man, I'm going off topic. That's ADHD again. Well, not
that's fine.
Actual, but ask myself what the goals are every night, because most of our life is subconscious. Think about when you drive somewhere and then you show up and you're like, how did I get here? So most of our life is on autopilot, and it's something like 80 to 85% of our life is on autopilot. Yeah. So if you can engrave in your brain what your vision is and constantly try to visualize what that vision looks like. What does it look like if I'm the number one podcast in North America? Mm-hmm. And every night before you go to bed, you picture it in detail. What does it feel like? What do I feel like? Who's around me? What does it smell like? What am I wearing? Whatever. And the more detail you can kind of use to trigger all your five senses, the more you're gonna make a vivid picture, and the more you start living like that's actually happening. Mm-hmm. And now you start making decisions like you are the number one podcast in North America. Mm. And then with that comes another piece, which goes beyond the question you asked, but like that's kind of where my mind went. But the number one way to eliminate having all those daily checklists and make sure that I like think positively and, you know, my daily affirmations and this and this and this is anytime you're in a pickle or any sort of like situation where you need to make any sort of decision, ask yourself, what is the ideal version of myself? What would the ideal version of myself do in this situation? Mm-hmm. And make sure you know what your ideal version of yourself looks like in like one sentence. Mm-hmm. So for example, I mean, an obscure, like crazy example, but like say a billionaire. If I was a billionaire podcast owner,
yeah,
or if I owned the number one podcast in the world, what would I do in this situation, right? So for example, like maybe you guys ask yourself that question. You're like, okay, maybe we need to do more podcasts. I'm just saying as an example. Yeah. Or maybe I need to now do podcasts with like people that are outside of just Winnipeg or whatever. We transform or whatever. So like, or say you're like, I don't really feel waking up for that 7 a.m. podcast. I'm going to try to see if I can move it. Mm-hmm. Then you're like, ask yourself, what would the number one podcast owner in the world do? Mm-hmm. They'd say, no, I'm getting up. I'm doing that podcast. So figure out what the ideal person looks like, and then ask yourself that question every time.
Mm-hmm. That's also backed by science too. So I'm a science student. Yeah. I do research in neurology.
All right, let's change the topic because you're going to kibosh me.
No. I'm just saying. The reason I bring it up is because when you look at the science behind it, mm-hmm. your brain doesn't know what's real and what's not. Right?
Like, and that's one of my daily reminders.
Exactly. Right. So sometimes when you have your dreams or something, they feel so real.
Exactly.
Why?
Exactly.
Because your brain can't tell the difference. So if you're dreaming about all these things and you're activating your senses, like you said, even the science backs it up in a way that your brain waves function the same. So I'm just great that you mentioned those.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And if it's the last thing you think before bed, usually I will dream about that life.
Yeah, exactly.
As well. So like you get up and you're like, Jack, you're like, let's do this. You know what I mean? Like you don't need, it's like when people are like, oh, what do you do to like boost your motivation? It's like motivation is.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. I'm like, do you believe in motivation? Like
I think I think that like, there's nothing that's going to be there that's going to be like, let's go, right? Like, like a kick of coffee or whatever. I think it's like anytime, and I know when people ask that, I know what they mean. Is like when you're like, just feel kind of like exhausted mentally or physically or whatever, and you just don't feel like doing something. Mm-hmm. Think about the ideal life. That gets you jacked. Think about anytime anybody said any words that kind of hurt you or that you're not going to succeed. So like your business sucks or this sucks or you're never going to make it. And like, what are you doing starting a business? Most fail after 5 years.
They fuel you.
What's that?
It fuels you. Sorry.
Yeah, it fuels you like crazy. That. And another thing is track your energy throughout the day. Mm-hmm. So what I do is I track my time every single day. So I have category like how much time I spend, you know, on bookkeeping, how much time I spend like meetings with employees, like everything. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, I also track my energy level out of 10. And then you figure out, because everybody's so different. Like all the gurus that tell you wake up at 5 a.m. Well, I might be a night person, and like chemically, back to science, you can't just change the way you are. Like we are creatures of habit. So like if you do it long enough, maybe you'll feel more okay with it. Yeah. But naturally, you work better at night, or naturally you work better in the morning. Track your energy levels throughout the day, and then you figure out what do you do best throughout the day. So then you can now use, again, back to the numbers, they don't lie.
Yeah.
Use the analytics after you do that for a month. Use the analytics and figure out, okay, do I study better in the morning or do I study better in the evening? So if I don't study well in the evening and then I don't have motivation in the evening, well, it's clearly a pattern that it's just your body and your mind after you've exhausted your mind all day making decisions, maybe studying and trying to remember, like, I don't know, quantum physics is not the best idea at the evening. So you're like, okay, well, maybe I need to shift my schedule, wake up early, I do my studying in the morning, and I do all my like repetitive kind of like mindless tasks, like cooking, cleaning, whatever in the afternoon, you know? So that's another thing is like, maybe don't ask yourself, what can I do to get motivated? Ask yourself, what is the cause of no motivation? And it could be low energy. It could also be like your diet. Like that's huge. You know, if you just ate, if you always eat like a lot of carbs and whatever, you know, like it's hard for your gut to process it. Or so it takes a lot of energy. So it takes a lot of energy out of you. So you don't have the motivation. So again, think about the cause of it as well. Yeah. So
where do you find that balance? So for example, me, I'm an engineering student. So
yeah,
loved when you said that.
He builds bridges.
Yeah, I build the bridges.
All right. Well, I'll market your bridge then.
So like being that student, right, and running your own businesses, and you want to do all these goals, and you have those visions.
Yeah.
How do you set up your day that way you still have time for yourself, right? Because I feel like that's very important, and still be aligned with your goals.
Right. Focus and like stacking different activities together. So focus is, that's why I sold all that stuff earlier. Like I told you when I was like 20 or 21 or whatever. Figure out what your focus is for the next, say 5 years.
Yeah.
Then back to 4 years, 3 years, 2 years, 1 year, 6 months, and a monthly focus. And every day I remind myself what my focus is. If it doesn't fit within my focus right now, I don't do it. Right now, your main focus, you're trying to finish school.
Yeah.
So you also have this podcast. You want time for yourself. You probably want some time with your friends. Maybe it's not the best time to try to invest in crypto, even though everybody's saying to do it. Everybody's like, it's popping or whatever. Yeah. Excuse me. Unless you want to like invest into something that's like stable, like Bitcoin or Ethereum, you know, and just like bury it and keep adding to it once a month, then yeah. But you're not going to be daily trading.
Right.
Figure out what your focus is, and you usually want up to 5 maximum. Like 5 is already pushing it. Areas of focus. So, for example, mine is like agency growth. Part of the vision, which I'm not going to share, like another project that I'm building. Wholeness, which is me, which is relax, gym, journal, and a couple other things. And then friends and my girlfriend. And then the 5th one, networking. Like big on networking, like big concentration on that, which takes a lot of time too, because like you're sending DMs, emails, LinkedIn all the time. Figure out what that focus is, and realize that you can't do it all. And maybe for now, your focus is to finish school. How many years do you have left? Like
just 2 more.
2 more, exactly. Yeah. So just 2 more, like you said. So if it's just 2 more, then maybe you just need to make sure that you do school really well, and then you do this podcast really well, if that's what matters to you guys. And then, you have a little bit of time to yourself really well, whatever that means to you, right? And then realize that after 2 years, then you'll dive into these other things that you want to do, right? So that's what I would say. The other thing is stacking. So trying to figure out activities that you can do at the same time and save time. So for example, education while you cook, clean, walk the dog, drive, right? Spend time with your girlfriend while you also spend time with your family, for example, and like stack those, or like spend time with your family while you're also spending time with your girlfriend, so you can stack those, right? Like figure out different things that you can stack. So for example, like I'm trying to cut for the summer and like do cardio. So, but I also need to walk the dog, like I have a dog. So then I go for runs with my dog, and that gets 2 in 1.
2 in 1.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing is also outsourcing is huge.
Right.
Try to figure out as much as you can to outsource anything that you don't need to do, any sort of repetitive tasks.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be expensive. You guys know Fiverr and Upwork. Yeah. Like outsource as much as you can, and to justify it, figure out what is your time worth. Figure out how much money did you make last year. Break it down into the amount of time you spent on work, and to do that, just track your 1 week of what you do to generate that income, and then multiply it times 52 weeks, obviously.
Right.
The amount of time you spent, and then figure out your hourly rate. And then anytime you think about outsourcing and somebody's charging you 20, but your hourly rate that you make is 40, it's worth it.
Yeah.
You know? So for me, it's a little extreme, but I literally have like somebody that will pick out recipes, pick out the best recipes for the week. Once the recipes are picked, they put in an Instacart order for like a Superstore, and then Superstore delivers, like Instacart delivers the groceries on Sunday. Every time we need to cook, we have a shared note file with the person that picks out the recipes, and then we just click the thing and then we already have the groceries for it, and then we just cook it. We don't have to decide, and we tell them what we like, what we don't like, and make sure that all the meals are under 30 minutes long. And they just fill in the note sheet, and then boom.
Wow.
But again, like somebody can say that's a little crazy, but I would rather that than one have to go to the grocery store, driving there and back like 20, an hour total, perusing around the store another hour.
Right.
It's definitely worth for me to pay $7 to Instacart. And now this personal assistant that I have from Fiverr, they're, I don't know, $10 an hour. It takes them an hour to pick me the meals for the week.
Yeah.
Totally worth it. Because for me, I'll be like, I'll put emotion into it. I'm like, I don't know if I like this. Versus if it's there, I'm like, okay, well, that's what I'm eating.
Yeah, exactly.
And the groceries are already here. So like, I can't say no. So that's what I'm eating,
That's crazy productive.
But then you save that time. And then now I have more time to do the things I value or the things that it's in my focus. Right.
What does a chill day look like for you? Like, do you ever chill? You ever just throw on a movie and be like, yo?
No. Honestly, no. Like, and that's again, like if I'm chilling with my girl, then maybe. But even then, we'll usually like go run errands and try to make it fun or whatever, or like go to a restaurant after we run errands to like add a little bit of an element there. Like I'll play COD maybe once every 3 weeks for like 2 hours, and then and that's the only thing I can do where my brain can shut off, and I'm like doing something. The other thing is like. Yeah, like I really like reset when I hit the gym. So that's big. And then like I'll hang out, like I'm very social. So anytime I network or I hang out with like some friends, which I try to keep it to like one friend a week, max, or one friend group a week. And again, just for what's my focus right now. And it's not that I'm better than anybody or whatever. It's literally just what matters to me right now.
Right.
And that recharges me a lot. So that too. So I never really just like lay on the couch and do nothing. I don't know, because it's not that I'm like forcing myself and I hate my life right now and I know that's my focus and I hate it. It's that it's so fun for me to build and to make myself better that I'm like, it's like I'm playing real life GTA and I'm building my empire. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's fun. And and when you see the results of what you're doing, it's really recharging.
Of course.
So yeah.
That's amazing, man. Any advice you can give to the listeners out there that are wanting to be more productive on their daily days, or just wanting to start their own businesses, continue to grow it? Any advice you can give to them?
Follow your passion. If you follow your passion, you're really able to take the bad days way easier. You're willing to put more hours into it. You're willing to like close your eyes on things that are not going as well, and you might get a little emotional. And of course, you'd like grow your tolerance as you grow. But yeah, follow your passion, because a lot of people get into it for the money or for the clout or for the views or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Do it because you're passionate and and try to be value first. So drive as much value as you can for the world, and the world will respond. And make sure that like it's not you, like it's not me. I provided the vision for Prolex, but it's not me. Right. It's the fact that my team busts their ass every day, that they follow the vision, they know what they need to do, and then the clients respond positively, right? So it's not, I just provide the vision. And I think too many like people that do it, like start a business, they're like, oh yeah, I'm an entrepreneur. And I'm going to get some hate for that, but whatever. But like, do it. Don't do it because you're like all that. Like you're nobody.
Yeah.
You provide the vision. You're just like everybody else, but know that the people that work for you is what makes you, and in the response of your customers is what makes you as a business. Right. It's not, it's not so much you as much. You need to be smart. You need to provide the vision. You need to provide all that. You do a lot too, but just know that without your customers and without your staff, you wouldn't be where you are today.
Are you satisfied in your life right now, or are you always chasing the next thing?
Did my girlfriend send you questions before this?
Yeah, she's actually read us. Okay,
yeah, I think my phone's going off. You know what? Because she asked me that as well. She's like, "Be happy with what you have." The thing is, I am happy with what I have.
Okay.
But I'm always chasing the next thing, and it's not the next thing as in like I'm always trying to push myself further.
Why?
Right.
Why?
Yeah. Why? You got the successful business you live in.
I know. You know what? Because that's what gets me excited. That's what gets me going. That's what I have so much passion and so much like energy into it that I'm always like, how far can I push it? How far can I push it to prove to myself, again, nobody else, myself. How far can I push it to be able to, see my dreams through? I don't know. Like it's almost like leveling up. Like I don't know,
Right.
like when you're like in playing Call of Duty in grade 10.
Yeah.
It's like how many prestigious can I get, right? And it's like the satisfaction that you when you get that the animation that you made it or whatever. So like same thing. It's for me. It's like I literally don't care what people think. Like I'm a car guy. That's why I buy like nice-ish car. You know what I mean? I don't care what somebody's gonna be like, oh, nice car, man.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like I literally just want to do it for myself to prove to myself that all my hours are worth it. You know what I mean? And how far can I push it? So I definitely want the time freedom. Like that's what I'm kind of chasing is to be able to, enjoy the life more. But I enjoy it right now too. It's just in a different capacity or in a different kind of with different aspects of life. Right. But I want to get to the point where I can enjoy it more, where the business is ran a little more passively, not completely, but a little more passively, where I can travel and I can, do things and maybe play Call of Duty for 8 hours straight one day. Maybe. Yeah.
I like that.
All right. I think on that note, it's the perfect way to end off the podcast. If you haven't already, make sure to check out Alex. We'll tag everything in the description below. We're on all streaming platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcast, all of that. We're live every Tuesday morning at 11:30 a.m. on the UMFM radio station, 101.5 FM. Until next time, peace.
Let's go.
Thanks,
Thank you, Alex.
Thanks, man.
That's it, bro.